Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Mobile Theatre. My name's Matt. I'm going to be hosting the sessions throughout the day today. Next up, we have Justin Taylor. Justin is the founder and manager director of Graphitas, and is going to be talking to us today about how to design for mobile. So should you go responsive, should you go adaptive, and in fact, should you even care which you choose? So without further ado, let's hand over and have a welcome to Justin. Thank you.
Hi, can you all hear me okay? Great, well let's get in. Basically, what I want to just talk to you about is there's a lot of buzzwords at the moment going around the mobile industry, and they're pretty much all focused around these two, responsive and adaptive. There's a lot of conversations, a lot of talk going on about which is best. Should my site be responsive? Should my site be adaptive? For those of you that don't know, the differences between the two is responsive uses a single template, which is a fluid layout, which works across multiple devices. That template, as shown in the example here, will repurpose itself, it will relay itself out, restack itself, depending on the device in which you're using. Adaptive, on the other hand, takes a very different approach. What adaptive does is it takes a single template for a desktop device. If you then want to optimize for another device such as mobile or tablet, you then have to create a completely different template, as in the example here for TripAdvisor. Often the result of that is you get two very different designs. With responsive, you'll get a very cohesive design across both. With adaptive, you will often get a much more focused mobile offering and a much more focused desktop offering. So which is best? That's the question which is often asked and often bandied about, and I will attempt to answer that in some way, shape or form a little bit later. But before I do, just a few little mobile stats that I just want to bring you away, which maybe put a little bit of perspective on all of these kind of things. Between 2009 and 2012, mobile internet usage doubled, almost. Now that's a pretty significant number. That is, within 3 years, twice as many people are using mobile devices to access the internet. And in 2013, the figures and what have you that are out at the moment is showing that is going up massively. This curve continues. We're probably going to be somewhere around about 3 times as many. So mobile is big business. Secondly, when users are on mobile devices, the thing that really interests them is things in their immediate area. All their searches, or around about half of the searches, are searches with local intent. So people are interested, like for example today, we're all here, probably not too many people live around here, maybe some people are staying here. There's a good chance you want to go out and find a restaurant. So you're going to be searching for restaurants that are around here. You're not interested in restaurants in your hometown, you're interested in things which are going on around you. And that's something which is very common across mobile. So you need to make sure if you are a restaurateur, we're back. So you need to make sure if you are a restaurateur or your website is you're looking for visitors and people to come and do, you need to be giving people all of the information that they want. If somebody wants to restaurant, they're going to need to know things like opening times, because there's no point booking a table in a restaurant that's closed, phone numbers, menus, general other things like maps, location. If you don't give people that kind of information, they're going to bounce. They're going to come to your site. They're going to go. You've lost that opportunity of getting them to convert. And if you don't believe mobile is big business, how about this for a stat? 50% of all online transactions for Mother's Day 2013 came from mobile devices. 50%. Now that is a massive number. And if that's not impressive enough, it's forecast that in 2013, £13 billion worth of online transactions will come from mobile devices. And if that's not impressive enough, that figure has already been shattered and has been repositioned at 20 billion. And if that's still not impressive enough, that's just eBay. So that's not taking into account Amazon, that's not taking into account ASOS, it's not taking into account the various app stores, iTunes. You add all of those into the pot and you've got a big business. And it's a big business that we all need to be making the most of and making sure we're engaging people in. Basically, mobile is the fastest growing platform ever. And that's a fact. We're in a modern day gold rush here. Our clients, our customers, we've all got something that we should be optimizing because people are doing it badly. There's around about 20-30% of websites are mobile optimized or properly mobile optimized. Email is even less. 50% of emails are opened on mobile devices now, but only something like 20% of emails are optimized for mobile. So we've got a lot of problems. So what do we know about the mobile user? If we're designing sites, what's the kind of information that we have and the kind of information that we need? We know that users browse with intent. It's not like the old days of desktop where you click on a link, and before you know it, you're 4, 5, 6 pages away from where you started. People are browsing on mobile devices are very focused. They're going in for a piece of information, coming back out when they find it. If they don't find it, they're going to the next page, and so on. Secondly, they're much less tolerant. Speed is a big thing for mobile. If your site is not optimized for speed, then basically you're going to lose people, because they don't want to be sitting there for 20, 30, 40 seconds waiting for a page to load. They need to at least see the screen painting within a few seconds, and the whole site needs to be loading within probably 5 seconds maximum. Lastly, if users can't find what they're looking for, they're off. Simple as that. That sale is gone. So you need to make sure that all of these kind of factors are taken care of on any mobile offering. So that brings me back to the question of responsive or adaptive. Which is best? Who actually cares? Do you care as a user when you're browsing a website, whether it's responsive or whether it's adaptive? My guess is not. I don't think users care about technology. The people that care about technology are developers and, developers predominantly, and maybe designers to some point. It doesn't affect you whether a site is responsive or adaptive. Users really only care about finding the information that they're looking for and finding it quickly. That can be whether it's on a responsive site, an adaptive site, or whatever. So I want to share a story with you, and it's a true story about a girl who works at Graphitas. Her daughter, a few weeks back, turned a bit ill in the evening, wasn't very well, got a high temperature, struggling to breathe, coughing, that kind of stuff. So what she done is what all mothers do in this situation. She took her up to the bathroom, as you're taught in the parent and toddler groups, run a hot bath, get some steam in, clear the airways. She was up doing that, making her daughter more comfortable. While she was in the bathroom, she wanted to sit in there comforting her daughter. She wanted some advice, some reassurance. She wanted to speak to somebody, make sure everything was going to be okay. Obviously, in her bathroom, she doesn't have a desktop computer. She didn't have a tablet with her. She didn't have a laptop, but she did have a mobile phone in her back pocket. So she picked up a mobile phone and Googled NHS Direct. Sadly, what she found was this page here. And as you can see, it's a crap site, which is not in any way, shape or form optimized for mobile. Tiny buttons, tiny text. The only good thing about this site is the big blue triangle which says call 111 999 if it's an emergency. Sadly, she tapped on that. Oh dear, let me can off just bear with me, I'll close my Wi-Fi. Apologies for that. Right. Sadly, when you click on that, click to call is not enabled. So you're tapping on this button here and absolutely nothing's happening. So as a result of that, this girl who's got a child in her arms who's ill, she's obviously, her anxiety levels are up here, stress levels are up here, she then the only option is to exit the browser, go into your phone, dial the number, and then navigate all of the stupid menus that you have to do. Now, why? What's the point? Because to fix that problem is these 20 or so characters of code, something that the most basic of HTML programmers could do. And what that would actually do from the user experience point of view would be phenomenal. Just being able to touch that one graphic here and automatically be dialing would make a massive, massive difference. Sadly, it doesn't get any better from there, because once she'd actually gone through and done all this, she was waiting for the callback from the doctor, as tends to happen. She went through to look for the symptoms checker, because she wanted to see if there's anything she could be doing differently, if there's anything she needed to be worried about. So that's the button, the symptoms checker button there. It doesn't even represent the minimum recommended hit area for a button. You know, you can barely touch that with your thumb. When you click on the symptoms checker, you get this page here. I mean, this is garbage. This is absolute, you know, in this situation, stress levels, anxiety, to be faced with a page like that, which is broken down. I'm sure people at the back can't read this text here, and I'm probably sure that people at the front can't either, because when you're viewing it on a mobile phone from here, you can't read it without zooming. So, anyway, the good news is a child and everything was fine, but, you know, I kind of had a look into this afterwards, when she'd went through the scenario, and I had a look through the site. And when you actually go onto the NHS site, you see this blue, underneath this blue graphic, there's this little menu here, which is a collapsed menu, which is more from NHS Direct. Clicking on that pops open a sub-menu. And I don't know if any of you have noticed, but within that sub-menu is a mobile symptoms checker. I mean, really? Is this actually happening? They've built this thing, but they're not integrating it. So when you click on the mobile symptoms tracker, guess what you get? You get a perfectly optimized mobile website. But when you access the site from a mobile device, you don't get to that. I mean, is that the biggest load of bullshit you've ever heard? When you click through it, you actually go, okay, it's maybe not the best site, but it is optimized for mobile, and you can navigate these forms with your thumb without the need of clicking and zooming. Compare that with what you do get when you actually access that device. You can see it's a world better. It's a million times better. And that would have been cured by putting in something like, depends on the platform of the server, but it would have been something along those kind of lines, 10 or so lines of code. Again, something the most inexperienced of developers that could have put together. But, you know, when you actually put that into context of how much money must have been spent on NHS Direct as a website, I don't know what the figures are, but you can guarantee it wasn't a $5,000 website. You know, there have been tens and tens of thousands of pounds spent on this, but at no point did anybody think of the circumstances in which people are going to be using that site. You know, they don't think that whenever you're on this site, it's not the kind of site that you just browse for fun. It's the kind of site that you browse with real intent. And had they have done those two little things, the click to call and this, what a much better experience that would have been, because that colours the view of the organisation. When you're on that site, you think, well, if they can't even get that bit right, what hope is there of them doing anything else efficiently? Since I put this slide deck together, I'm pleased to say that NHS have changed their homepage. Sadly, the one good thing about it is now gone. They've got this header area up here, which you can't click on. They've taken off any reference whatsoever to the phone number. So they've updated it, but they've made it worse. If that is actually even possible, they have made this site 10 times worse. So there's lessons there. Is make sure whatever you're doing, when you're building a mobile offering, that you think about the context in which the site is going to be used, the frame of mind that people are going to be in when they're using the site. So I want to show you a site which I think is getting it right. Now, I travel around quite a bit. I'm sure a number of people do. So I'm frequently booking hotels, and I'm sure we've all had experiences of online booking on mobiles. On the whole, it's pretty crap. But I've got to say, I found a site which is doing it fantastically, and I would say they've probably got it about 99% right. And that is laterooms.com. If you take a look at their website, this is incidentally an adaptive site. Not that that really makes any great deal of difference, but there's 5 pieces of information that you need when booking a hotel room, typically, or at least that covers 95% of people. That information is where you want to stay, when you want to stay, how many nights, how many rooms, and how many people. That's the 5 pieces of information that you need. And guess what? That's all they've got on their homepage. And also, as you can probably notice, they've pre-populated most of it. They know that most people coming to their site are going to probably want a hotel for that night. It's probably going to be 1 room and for 1 or 2 adults. So they've pre-populated all of that information. So you have to do next to nothing. The only bit that you have to complete, if you're looking for a hotel room tonight, is your location. And guess what? They've enabled location services on that as well. So when you click into that box, it asks you if you want rooms where in the area that you're in now. So it will access your GPS on your phone or whatever, and it will find you listings based on the location in which you're standing when you access that. Now that is fantastic. It doesn't finish there as well. They've got nice, if you do want to change anything, they've got nice large hit areas. So you can control this, you can navigate this with your thumb. You know, it's a lovely site to use, and when you do click on Find Hotels, you get lovely listings. Nice big photograph, guest satisfaction rating, and a price. Secondly, you get access to all of the kind of key things that you're going to be looking for, such as I'm interested in how many stars it's got, what the price is. All of that information is delivered to you without you needing to go look for it. And when you do go to book, this is where the experience gets even better, in my opinion. They've done things like they've turned autofill on. They've made sure that that's enabled. So if you've got your details, you can autofill all of the information in. They've also turned autocorrect off, which is very, very important with name fields. I'm sure we've all been there. We've completed a name field. Justin, unfortunately for me, tends to show up as dustbin by the time I've completed it. So turning autocorrect off is a big, big win. Secondly, when you go into the email field, obviously if you've already registered, you don't even need to worry about this. The booking is pretty much complete, as you go. But they've turned on an email-specific keyboard, so you don't have to hunt around at the bottom of your screen trying to work out which button you need to press to get the @ symbol up. It's automatically done and it's there and it's sitting waiting for you. And of course, numeric keypads for phone numbers, for credit cards. It's a seamlessly beautiful site and it's so slick. And the one thing about it is the one thing not to forget about this whole process is from a user's perspective, if it works, you're going to go back. So you're re-engaging that customer time and time and time again. Secondly, it's the kind of thing you're going to tell people about. It's the kind of thing that people are going to tweet about. It's that, you're getting massive, massive engagement. And also it colours your view of the organisation. I don't know anything about laterooms.com apart from this website. But my theory is that they're a bloody efficient and organised bunch, because if they're spending this much time and effort on getting their website right, logic would dictate that they're doing exactly the same with every other part of their business. So again, it's colouring the whole thing positively. Just take a look at a couple of their competitors, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what they're up against. Booking.com, it's not a bad website, it's okay, it kind of does most of the things, it's quite efficient. Sadly, when you do, it will do location detection, but one of the annoying things about it is before you can search for a room, despite the fact that these two fields are populated here, you still have to select the dates on the calendar before you can do a search. Massively annoying. Trivago, I don't even need to say anything about that site, surely. You can all see what you'd be doing. You'd all be reaching for your back button straight away. Now, Airbnb, this one surprised me, because Airbnb, my perception of them is they're a very modern, forward-thinking company. They've kind of changed the way in which travel and hotels are booked and done a very, very good job of it. Sadly, their website is pretty crap and it doesn't reflect that experience. And I know they've got apps, and I know pretty much all of these people have got apps, but I don't want to download an app for every single hotel chain or anything. I just want to get it on my mobile device. And I think that's a fairly common problem or a fairly common blind spot amongst people. Well, our app takes care of that. If you haven't got the app, you don't necessarily want to be sitting there downloading it before you can book a hotel room. That is an immediate bounce. So lastly, the Travelodge, probably what you'd expect. It does an okay job. Once you click through to purchase, you've got all of these horrendous upselling opportunities. Do you want room cancellation insurance for £1.50? Do you want Wi-Fi? Do you want breakfast? It just makes the whole thing really painful. Premier Inn is probably one of the nicer interfaces. Unfortunately, it's pretty crap to use. It doesn't do a lot for you. It's quite a manual process, and once you get through, you get exactly the same problems that you get with Travelodge, where do you want to pay extra for everything that you can possibly think of to try and upsell you? I've also got a slide here. The slide deck is on SlideShare, so don't worry too much. You can download it off SlideShare. But I've also put up here a group of sites which we think are doing mobile really, really well. So the likes of Skinny Ties, the WWF, it's a fantastic responsive site they've built. There's a mixture of responsive and adaptive sites in there, if you even care. At the end of the day, just go on and use them on your mobile devices, use them on your desktops, get a little bit of a feel for what actually works and what problems these people are solving. So to finish off, I'm going to go run through sort of 5 tips which will hopefully make you build better websites, make you build sites which will improve the user experience on mobile devices. Take me around about 5 minutes-ish. So the first one, it's probably been covered in parts throughout the presentation, but the first one is to design from the user's perspective. That is massively, massively important. Don't design from your own perspective. Design for the people that are actually going to be using it, your customers, or your potential customers, or whoever it might be. So what you need to do to do this, you need to establish the user's intent. So what does the person who's coming onto this website want from it? Is it a case of you're just building brand? Are you saying all wonderful, nice things and re-underlining your brand in the way that sort of McDonald's and Coke typically tend to? Are you selling a product? Are you trying to book hotels? Are you trying to get somebody to book a seat in your restaurant? Whatever it might be, establish the user's intent, or the intent that you want the user to have when they come to your site, and make sure you fulfill it. Secondly, cut the clutter, and I think that was illustrated absolutely perfectly by the laterooms.com. Strip out all of the shit that people don't want. They don't want all of the clutter. They don't want to know about your board of directors, and they don't want to know that. You have a link through to a full desktop site for people that do want that kind of information. So strip it back and make it as lean as possible, because one, it will load faster. Secondly, people will enjoy using it a lot more. And think of the circumstances of a user when they're likely to be viewing your site. So we obviously covered off the NHS Direct one, but if you're a hotels company, the likelihood is that somebody's either their meeting's overrun, they missed their train or something like that. There's going to be an element of distress within that purchase process. So you need to make sure that you're streamlining it. You don't want to be the cause of the problem. You want to be the helping hand to these people, not the hurdle. So strip back all of that kind of stuff and make it a really pleasant experience. And lastly, think of the required outcome. So do you want people to book a room? Do you want, in a situation with something like NHS Direct, do you want people to give people reassuring information? Do you want to lessen anxieties, and do you want to make sure that if somebody has got a serious problem that you're getting ambulances out to them quickly? Well, yes would be the answer to that. So make sure that you're delivering that kind of information. Tip number 2, this is a tip that I've borrowed from Aleda Solis, and she is absolutely fantastic technically on mobile. Give her a follow. She is a real fantastic person and fantastically knowledgeable. And that is to target your most popular devices. Every website, I don't care how big it is, has got a budget along the line somewhere. You cannot afford, and it is impossible to optimize for every single mobile device. You can't do your Galaxies right the way down to your obscure Japanese import tablets. The same with like some of the Windows phones and all that. So what you do is you target your most popular devices, and you go as far down that list of the most popular devices as you can. So you then optimize your site for those. So here's what you're going to do. As you go into analytics, within analytics you click on audience, click on mobile, and click on devices. That then gives you a list of your most popular devices which are accessing your website. So you've got that information, and you go down as far down that list as your budget will allow. I would say as a minimum you should be optimizing for 6. Just so you're making sure you cover off, obviously, the iOS devices, covering off the most popular Android and the Windows phones. But once you've got that information, what you're then going to do is you're then going to go download Opera Mobile Emulator, because we don't have access to these physical devices. This is a free download, and it allows you to view your website as if it's being viewed on virtually every smartphone that's available in the market at the moment. And this list is constantly getting updated. The only slight downside with this is it doesn't have an iOS emulator, but it does Android, Windows phones, Nokias, all that kind of stuff. But hopefully most organisations would have access to iPhones and iPads for testing purposes. But a great way of making sure, because what you don't want to happen is if somebody's viewing your site on a Nokia Windows phone and one of your buttons doesn't work on there, and that stops them converting, you kind of need to know that information, because otherwise that's a potential sale lost. So invest in testing. Tip number 3 is enhance user experience with mobile-specific HTML. And that is covered by things like the click-to-call that we talked about earlier, a little bit of things like the device detection. So the kind of things that you do, as well as click-to-call, should certainly always have a view desktop site, site button on every mobile optimized site, because there are people who are accessing it who maybe don't want to book a room at Late Rooms, they just want to find out a bit more about the company. Enable location services. Screwfix do this well as many other retailers. Well, they've got branches all over the country. You go to their branch locator, you don't bother typing in a postcode, you don't bother typing in an address, anything like that. You just enable location services, and it will tell you your nearest branch based on where you're actually making this request from. Also, one of the other ones which is a big annoyance to users is disable automatic detection of numbers. And what that basically is smartphones try to be inherently clever by taking, if it sees a string of text or string of numbers, it thinks it's a phone call, so it will make, or a phone number, so it will make that clickable, and it will try and dial not to 2013 or whatever it might be. So disable that. It's as simple as disabling or enabling click to call. It's just like a meta tag or something like that. So, but very easy to do. Disable autocorrect and making sure you're using the relevant keyboards on the relevant fields. It's so easy to select the keyboard for mobile devices. So just take that barrier out of people's way. Tip number 4 is put usability first. Now, I think this is a really, really big one, and I think it's one which is forgotten about in probably 90% of mobile development projects. What you should do, or in my opinion, what you should do, is you should design the perfect mobile site. Ignore all of the problems, all of the technical issues, the responsive, adaptive, all of the SEO, all of those kind of things. Ignore them for the first part. Design what you believe to be the perfect mobile experience. Once you've got that, you then look at, is it better that this site is built in responsive, or is it better this site is built in adaptive? Have we got enough on-page SEO for this page? Do we need more text? Do we need because that you're then making these decisions, it is then exactly that. It's a decision. You are basically doing a trade-off. Is this trade-off worth that trade-off in user experience? So always do that if you can. It's a great way, and I guarantee you, if you do take that approach, the mobile sites that you end up with will be 10 times better than those which are designed with all of the limitations in mind. The last tip is a Dave Trott tip, and it's fantastic. It's transformed the way that we deal with customers at Graphitas. And it's something that we've implemented and we roll out on every piece of new business. And basically, this is probably more, if you're an in-house, this probably isn't quite so relevant, but the idea behind it is fantastic and very relevant. So what you kind of do is you think like the consumer. You don't think like the client. So the first thing that you do, when you get a brief or an invitation to pitch, before you do anything, before you read the brief, before you look at their website, what you do is you gather the team that are going to be working on this project. You go take yourself off to a coffee shop, a room, or whatever it might be, and you have a brainstorming session, and you write down every single piece of information, every preconception that you have about that customer. Because at that moment in time, you are closest to being one of their customers than you will ever be. The moment you start reading the brief, the moment that you start researching the company, the moment that you start going to client meetings, all that kind of stuff, you then buy into their mindset. You're hearing the story that they want to tell you. They're not selling products to themselves. They're selling products to consumers. They already know how good their own products are. Your job is to make sure that they're convincing the people that aren't buying them to buying them. So having this piece of information, you keep this for all times, and you always make sure that every single piece of work that you do comes back to those preconceptions and things that you do know, because they're all of the things that it is your job to try and change. So if you can just affect that, I think I probably missed a slider. But if you can just affect that small percentage of customers, again, you're going to be building much better and much more meaningful user experiences on mobile devices, desktops, anything that you're doing for them. So that brings me to the end of my talk. I think we're running a bit late, so I don't think there's any time for Q&As, but I'll be hanging around here for sort of 10 or 15 minutes, so if anybody would like to ask me any questions, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin. Actually, we are running pretty tight on time, but if anyone does have any questions, I'll be surprised if there aren't any, but Maybe we could take one or two if anyone has a question.
What do you think of those on the mobile sites, the pop-ups where it says, have you downloaded our app, click here to download the app, or then the tiny button that goes, go to our site, continue to it?
I hate them, probably, is my honest answer. I do think there is a place for them, especially, you take, for example, the situation of Airbnb, where their mobile presence is pretty poor, but their app is actually pretty good. Then, I don't think it's the solution to the problem by any means, because I still think they need to sort out those things. So it's useful, but I just find them intrusive, and I hate anything that's intrusive to the mobile experience, because it's got to be downloaded. There's an overhead in terms of requests, there's an overhead in terms of download, which again is just kind of slowing that whole process down and making it worse for the user.
Great. We have any more questions? No? Okay, well, as Justin said, he'll be hanging around, so if you want to grab him after this, please do. Thank you once again, Justin. Thank you.